Welcome to the MVP podcast, where we talk about anything NBA. I'm Sam Holcroft, alongside Gage Zollicoffer and Peyton Thompson. Before we begin, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP, follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast, and check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. Today, we're going to do our 2023 to 2024 NBA awards prediction. We know that 3 have already been announced. We're going to make a prediction for the other 3, but we're also going to quickly touch up on our preseason. Starting with the MVPs, I had KD, Gage had Jason Tatum, and Giannis Antetokounmpo for Peyton. The DPOY, Jaren Jackson Jr., boy was I off. Anthony Davis for Gage, and Evan Mobley for Peyton. Rookie of the Year, I had Chet, Gage had Victor, Peyton had Scoot Henderson. Sixth man, I had Norman Powell, Gage had Russell Westbrook, and Peyton had Bobby Portis. For Coach of the Year, I had Adrian Griffin. What a miss that was. Will Hardy for Gage and Rick Carlisle for Peyton. And for Most Improved, I had Mikal Bridges, Gage had Rui Hachimura, and Peyton had Jabari Smith Jr. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these awards. We'll start off with the Most Improved, since that is the one that has been announced. So the winner was indeed Tyrese Maxey. Gage, I believe you had Tyrese. Go ahead and tell us kind of why you were expecting this when you found out the finalists.
Because Tyrese has elevated himself into an actual franchise point guard. Like here's the thing. We thought last year was kind of like, he's getting there. But this year, it's full on. He's one of the best guards in the league. You can look at the finalists between Kobe White and Tyrese, and I think who was the other guy who was most improved?
Alperen, Şengün.
Sengun was close too. But Tyrese Maxey was able to hold it down even without Joel Embiid for a little bit. So I'm just thinking that like we need to start thinking of Tyrese as one of the best point guards in the league, and put his name next to guys like where would I rank him? Guys next to I would actually put him above guys next to Jalen Brunson, players like that. I think he's of that caliber now, and it's really nice for the 76ers, who I remind you lost James Harden, and we didn't really know what they were going to do, but they were easily able to lean on Tyrese. So yeah, that's just why it was just Tyrese.
So, do you want to dig in this first, Sam, or do you want me to do it first?
I'll go first.
All right.
So I went with the man, Kobe White. Did you go Kobe White as well, P?
Yep.
Okay. So my thing about Kobe White is let's talk about Tyrese, because I'm not going to diminish anything that Tyrese did this year. He was an all-star. He obviously won Most Improved, so he's deserving of it. But what was Tyrese last year? He was a starter, and he was one of the top dogs. He got to play with James Harden and learn how to be a leader like James Harden, especially when Joel played 52, 56 games. He didn't play a lot this year, so he had to play a lot. But he didn't really see a huge spike in minutes played. He played 4 more minutes than he did last year per game. He still played 37, which is insane. But let's talk about Kobe White for a second. What did Kobe do last year?
Stay in the league.
He was
That's
what?
He did. That's what Kobe White. If Kobe White doesn't have this year, is he in the league?
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
I mean, probably, yeah.
He's 20. He's 23. He's not 28. He's not Dante Exum.
Yeah. So, and that actually just was a great point, Gage. If he didn't have this year, he wouldn't be in the league. That's kind of insane, wouldn't you say?
Sure.
But back to my point. He started 2 games last year. This is a team that still needed guards last year, because Lonzo was still hurt last year, right? How many games did he start this year? He started 78. Played 13 more minutes per game and increased his points per game by over 10, while also shooting better from the field and better from 3 while getting more minutes. I mean, that's really all I have to say.
Here's the thing.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Actually, no. You go ahead and respond first, and then I'll say
It
what I have to
is
say.
okay. So I'm gonna say this. Yes, Kobe. Okay, Kobe White. I mean, so Tyrese started at what 20 points a game and had to improve to 25. Also, start putting the team on his back for a few games. Doubled his assists, increased his 3-point percentage. It's
Not
a
true.
lot. He increased his 3-point percentage this year,
No,
or
went
was
down.
it field goal? It
No.
might have been field goal.
No, they both went down.
No, they both went
They both
down
went down.
No way.
dramatically.
Yep,
His 3-point percentage.
3.1% from the field and went down 6.1% from three.
Oh, okay.
While getting more attempts.
Okay, so it went down by like 3%. Okay, never mind. But what I'm saying is that 5 points is really hard to do in the NBA. When you're sitting around 20, it is insanely hard to get that extra 5 points. What Kobe White did in my eyes was become a compatible player. He became a player who can actually, you can feel confident playing him in your team's rotation now. Kobe White was always questionable, like, should I pick him or should I pick AO? Or, still to this point, he kind of is. But that 5-point increase, that's a hard thing to do in the NBA. If, like Paul Pierce was saying, like, he was saying that if you are averaging around 20 a game, you've made it. You're a killer. But to increase that 5 points, even though you're getting more resistance with James Harden, you're not hiding behind James Harden. Kobe White, he's not the first option. He's not the second option. He's not the third option. Is he the fourth?
I would say this year he was the second option.
He was the second option behind DeRozan.
DeMar and sometimes
and
Vooch, because Levine didn't play after like December or whatever it
after
was.
December.
So you could say 2.5, I guess.
Yep.
I would say
That's what
there
you
was
wanna
just
say.
a lot of eyes watching Tyrese Maxey. And I mean, it's not too high of a bar to go ahead and say, oh, okay. Yeah, to go ahead and like beat Tobias Harris as the second option. But he was clearly the second option over Tobias.
Do you have more?
No, that's it.
So just briefly, this is kind of what I think about Tyrese Maxey versus the Kobe White discussion. I think that Kobe White, I'll break it down like this. One of the guys had natural progression, and one of them had unnatural progression. I think Kobe White was more unnatural. Like you said, I don't necessarily agree with this, but you were saying that if he doesn't have the year he had this year, he was out of the league, versus being up for award this year, and in our eyes being first or second. That's a pretty huge increase versus Tyrese Maxey. He's going to get more shots without Harden, right? So obviously it's going to go up. Now, I think as far as a player, he has proven that he can be a really good point guard. I don't know if I would say franchise necessarily, but he's definitely up there, right? He's definitely an all-star point guard, right? So I agree with you there that he's proven he can be that, but I don't think his stats really back up what a most improved player should be. Because I think when you look at the shooting splits, I think losing or going from 43% from three to 37%, that's a pretty steep drop off. And then going from 48 to 45% from the field is not as steep, but it's still not great. He's getting more shots, so he's gonna have more points, but his efficiency went down. And then also on top of that, when Embiid was out, they went all the way down to the 8 seed, so he wasn't necessarily carrying the team; he was just keeping them afloat. And I think that's what an all-star point guard should do. Whereas, I think very easily the same thing could have happened with the Bulls, where if Kobe White doesn't play as well as he plays, then they could have easily been out of the play-in race. So, I think Kobe White just resembles more of a most improved player to me, but I do think Tyrese Maxey has shown that he can be an all-star point guard.
I think Kobe White just hit rock bottom and built back up to what he was expected to do in his rookie season. I think
You think he was expected to average 19, 5, and 4 in his rookie season?
His numbers are really similar to like his sophomore season. I think he just hit rock bottom and you get back up, sure. It's a nice story, but
I don't
I
think they're
think to
similar at
get
all.
his second year, his sophomore season, similar stats.
He had 4 more points. He had a little bit more assists. He had a little bit more rebounds. His shooting, he went from shooting 42% from the field to shooting 45% from the field, and he went from shooting 36 to 38%. So if we want to talk about the going from 20 to 25, we got to talk about going from 15 to 19 with better
I
shooting
really
splits
think
instead of going
I
down.
think it's just because it's a player who hit rock bottom and I guess came back. Most improved, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what it is, and he hit rock bottom and he came all the way back up, that sounds like most improved to me. You know, that sounds like the definition.
So then we'll just move on to Coach of the Year here. We had Oklahoma City's Mark. Every single
Dagnall.
time I say his name, Dagnall. Yeah, that was every time I say it wrong. I had him winning. I just don't think that Chris Finch or Mosley had deserved it as much, just because the Pelicans Timberwolves last year made the playoffs. They were a play-in team and they made it as the 8th seed. They were a first round exit, but they still made it. And the Magic, I know that they made a huge jump as well, but I feel like climbing to the 1 seed in the stacked West when I think the Thunder were a 10 seed last year. I think that's remarkable. And I think he really was able to get the best out of his players, considering how young this team is too. So I think this was a very deserving award.
I think you guys had the same, so if you want to piggyback on that, Gage, and then I'll say what I got to say.
Yeah, I think I'm cool with this award. In the beginning of the season, I didn't know that OKC was going to be this good, but not a lot of people did, and that's why he's going to get he got the Coach of the Year.
Well, he had the best odds to win the award, but being the 1 seed in the West, I don't think anyone really saw coming.
Yeah, I guess no one saw he was going to be the 1 seed. He made everyone kind of fit, even though like it was Chet's first year, but he put Chet in the right positions to succeed. He found exactly where he fits. He elevated Shai's game. He elevated a lot of basically every player on that team has kind of gotten better. And I don't know if you would say that's youth. Like you have that much talent, but everyone is getting their shots up. Kind of hard to do, and you got to credit the coach for that. That's something you don't see even with the record.
I would say, and you can reveal mine, I picked Jamal Mosley. Mark Dagnall would have been a close second for me. I guess, let me go from the Thunder's perspective first. I think Mark Dagnall did a fantastic job, like you guys said, being number one, or were they? Yeah, number one in the West this year. With it's the youngest team in the NBA, I believe. So a lot of credit to their coach. But to be honest with you, I think with the Thunder and how their rebuild has gone, their year is gone. I think it's just as much as the executive of the year with Sam Presti, and I know he hasn't won it, but I think he deserves to. I think it's just as much about him being executive of the year and building this team as much as it is about Mark Dagnall being coach of the year. And kind of going into that, I think Jamal Mosley had a lot harder of a roster to work with. And I guess that kind of comes down to like your opinion on the team. But when I think of the Thunder, I think they have a very solid 3, 4 guys. Or I mean, let's just say 3. Let's break it down into 3. Yeah, SGA, and then J-Dub and Chet can be 2A, 2B, right? Whereas, and like I guess the next guy would be Josh Giddey. He doesn't really fit as well as some of the other guys, and they've made some really good draft picks, and that's why I say like, Sam Presti has been an executive of the year type of guy, the last 2 years because he's built a really good bench. So, whereas you look at the Magic, Paolo's your number one guy, but I don't think any of us would say he's better than SGA. And then Franz is a very good number 2, but I think we would probably put him on the same level as like a J-Dub, right? As far as impact goes. But I don't think they have another Chet. I don't think they have the same kind of bench. So I think he had to work with a little bit tougher of a roster. And that increase from going to the 11 seed to was it the 5 or they have the 4? They're either the 4 or the 5. 5, yeah. Was a pretty big increase. Now, the one thing that would hold it back for me is they are in the East. If they weren't in the East, they would be closer to like that 7-8 seed range. So that would definitely make a difference. But I just think he had a lot more to overcome than Mark Dagnall. But I don't mind giving it to Mark Dagnall here either because he did what he had to do and he was a really good coach this year.
Yeah, I feel like if the Magic would have been the 2 or the 3 seed, I might have considered this a little bit more, especially considering that roster construction, like you just mentioned. So, anything else to add to that, Gage?
Nope.
Nope. All right. So then we'll move on to Sixth Man of the Year, and Naz Reid won it. Let's see, Gage, I think you had Naz Reid, right?
Yeah, but I picked Naz Reid because like any of these guys could have actually made it. They're all pretty good contributors. You could argue if Malik Monk played and the play-in, Kings might even be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But Naz Reid, he was good off the bench. But you can't really pick behind these players. I'm not going to defend this pick too much. Like I if you would have told me Bobby Portis was like cool, like won it, then I would have agreed. Sure. If you would have told me, yeah.
PT, I'll let you.
I'm not going to defend it.
Yeah. I mean, I would pretty much agree with Gage. I mean, I think you can make a case for all these guys. I think the thing, and this is coming from a guy that really likes Naz Reid too. I'm a big fan of Naz Reid. I think he would start on a lot of teams in the NBA. But I think I like Malik Monk a little bit more. But I think for me, what it came down to is that when Malik Monk, and it's kind of unfair to the other guys because they were more healthy down the stretch and their teams were a lot better, right? But when Malik Monk went down, they went from, I believe, the 5 seed or 6 seed all the way down to missing the playoffs in that last stretch of games. And like Gage said, if Malik Monk had stayed healthy, maybe they'd be in the playoffs right now and they could be playing the Thunder or who was the 2 seed? I'm blanking on the 2 seed. Well, I guess they'd be playing the Nuggets, but I don't know if that would have made much of a difference. But, they would have been in the playoffs. So I think his impact means a lot to the team. And just like Naz Reid, he could be starting on a lot of teams in the NBA right now as well. So, very, very good players that could be starters. I don't mind Naz Reid winning it, though.
Yeah. I'd say that this is probably one of the toughest ones to choose because all 3 of these guys, like you guys have said, is deserving. I picked Bobby Portis as my winner. I think what really came down to is the fact that the Bucks kind of fell off there towards the end. And then, of course, Giannis getting his injury that last week. And then I think Bobby had to start those few games. I think he's got 2 starts in the season. I think that was in the last week of 4 starts. I think that includes the last 3 games of the season. And he's been starting here in the playoffs. But if you look at their stats, they're fairly identical. You got almost 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 1.3 assists for Bobby. And then Naz Reid is 13 and a half, 5 rebounds, and 1.3 assists. So it's very close, shooting 47%, 48%, and then 41% from 3 from Naz Reid, and 50% from the field, and 40% from 3. So just by looking at those kind of base numbers, I just give the edge to Bobby, but also someone who kind of not necessarily got snubbed, but didn't make it was Norman Powell. Because if you look at Norman and Malik's numbers, they're fairly comparable too. So it was really kind of like a huge and tight race. And I just feel bad for Bobby because this is his 2nd consecutive year being a finalist and finishing in 3rd.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll move on to the 3 awards that have yet to be announced. We'll start off with Rookie of the Year. I think this is a pretty easy one. Quick conversation. We all had Victor Wembanyama. For the first half of the year, we might have had the discussion between Chet and Victor.
No. No, not me.
It was the conversation. More than it is now, right?
Never.
It was a conversation.
Never.
It was a conversation.
What was my original guess?
It was big. Oh wow, you and 89% of other people. You and 89%.
Exactly. It was that easy. It was that easy. I was like, you guys cannot be telling me you're gonna put Scoot here. Come on now.
So wait.
Come on now. No Scoot, no Chet. What?
Chet made sense.
Chet made a little bit of sense, but no, not even. Still not enough.
So you're telling me you're the guy that would bet on the minus 10,000 and be like, see, I told you.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro. Like,
easily. I'll make a couple cents.
It was heavily favored.
I'll make $1.
Good $1. But yeah, I didn't spend too much time. I was like, can I sway this? And I'm like, no, it's Victor's. With him being up for Defensive Player of the Year, you can't tell me that you want to give it to Chet. And I'm curious to see what the voting's like if he's unanimous. If there's one guy that's like, no, I'm voting Chet. Yeah, I'm voting Chet.
There's going to be. There's going to be. Because of the difference in wins. There's going to be.
Yeah, but in MVP, it matters. In Rookie of the Year,
well,
not as much.
That's always debatable, though, because it always changes every year.
Bro.
The criteria always
MVP
changes,
finalist.
you know?
That is
There's going to be those people, that 15% of people, that 5 or 10 voters share that's going to be like, no, I just think Chet that much of the Thunder winning games, and Victor barely got 20, so.
Yeah, but I feel like for every person that thinks that way, there's probably also a person where it's like, this is Chet's second year in the league. He doesn't get a vote. And they don't even vote for him.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
yeah. It cancels out, maybe.
So
I'm not trying to be a mastermind or anything. This is just an easy pick.
Okay. Well, then why were you talking like that was a mastermind pick?
It's not a mastermind. I told you in the beginning of the season, this is as the easiest pick. It's Victor.
Well, and I think you quoted last year who the second easiest pick was, and I think that was Anthony Davis for Defensive Player of the Year. So you got AD winning this one, right?
Well, I didn't know that the league was rigged, so I didn't know that they had something against Anthony Davis.
Well, here's the thing: he wasn't going to win, right?
He was supposed to be a finalist at least.
He's supposed to be a finalist, but he's not going to win. So who's going to win?
Rudy Gobert. And here's the thing: Rudy Gobert actually has improved on defense quite a bit this year. Now the stats say you should go ahead and pick Wemby because he's averaging historic numbers in blocks. But the thing is that Victor Wembanyama, he's still a rookie, and you can see it in his play style. Victor Wembanyama, he gets bailed out by his length a lot of the time. He finds himself out of position a lot of the time, and he still needs to find some of the fine details. But Rudy Gobert has that locked down. Locked down. Yeah. It's a veteran who's playing defense. He might not be able to block every shot, but he's going to stop plays from ever existing. Wembanyama is going to catch that play when it exists. All these plays are going to exist, but Rudy, I haven't seen Rudy out of place. Besides, obviously, when he's forced to be out of place, on the 3-point line. But defensively, I haven't seen him out of place too often this season. And so what? That doesn't translate to blocks completely. There's a reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves are doing this well. He's a big part of it. So, yeah, Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, and I would say on top of that, being a defensive player of the year is a lot more than just the counting stats, there's a lot more to defending than just blocks and steals. If you're deterring guys away from shooting at the rim, and you can tell they have, teams have lower shooting percentages against your team at the rim, or they're just taking less shots there, I think that means a lot too. And Victor has that too, but it's not just about the counting stats, as well. And wins do matter here as well.
Yeah. And, this is someone who's already won the award before. He won it in 2021, but I'm
not defending him for 2021.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I'm just saying that this is someone who's won it before, but he's now able to be comfortable guarding in the perimeter. Because you guys remember what the Jazz did in 2021 in the playoffs? The Clippers made the switch on him and just would shoot from the corner all game long. Patrick Beverly, Terrence Mann, Paul George, whatever. And he just couldn't get out there. And now he's actually, maybe it's because he's got Cat, and obviously he had this last year, and but his numbers have even improved defensively compared to last year. But I think he now feels more comfortable knowing, like, I got some help on defense here, and he's just also been just able to work on it. So I'm expecting him to be a two-time, or I guess 4-time.
What year was this?
2020 to 2021.
When he was on Utah?
Utah.
Their number 1 seed, right?
They're the number 1 seed.
Crazy.
Defensive player of the year.
Yeah. And also, don't forget about Jaden McDaniels either. He adds a lot of defensive assistance as well. I know it's funny because of the meme, but he is a really good defensive player. I think he covers up a lot of the perimeter defensive spots that a lot of the guys on the team can't. I think he's probably the best defensive perimeter guy they got. So.
Yeah. All right, so then that brings us to MVP, where we got, I think, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. PT, go ahead and start this off. Who's winning?
Yeah, I think SJ is going to win it. I think how he was able to take a young team like this to the 1 seed is nothing short but amazing. Him being a young player as well. His counting stats going up. It's the 1 season I think he's been relatively all the way healthy, and he's not really known to be healthy all the time, so that matters as well. I just don't think that there's a great case against him, honestly, because he has a better record than everyone else up for finalists, and he has the stats with it, and I think generally the biggest point is that he has the least amount of work, or the most amount of work, the least amount of help. I think you talk about Luka, he's got Kyrie. I know he doesn't have a whole ton of what. Looking at me crazy.
I highly disagree with that statement.
You disagree?
Yeah.
I think after the deadline, it looks a lot better. But before the deadline, I may agree. But I just think that having Kyrie is such an asset to have pressure taken off of you that it makes a big difference. And then who is the last finalist? Oh, Jokic. I think Jokic probably has the most help, honestly, with Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., the kind of experience the team has, the bench, the coaching. I think he probably has the most help, and I don't want to take anything away from Jokic. He obviously makes that team go. But I think we would all agree that generally, experience-wise, they have a little bit more, or he has a little bit less work to do opposed to SGA, who kind of has to score 28 to 30 a night with 6 or 7 assists and be the closer.
Gage?
Yeah, I think SGA too. But like, this was really hard because I'm cool with Jokic too.
Yeah, me too.
I think both elevate their teams. I don't know what this Nuggets team is without Jokic. I mean, yeah, you have Jamal Murray, but Jamal Murray has been a real subpar this year. I don't know if that's because of injury or what, but he just looked off.
It's weird.
MPJ has been like a kind of a knockdown shooter, but MPJ hasn't really brought anything else to the game besides his shooting. It remains to be even seen what kind of MPJ is like. I don't even know how to describe it because it feels like every time he touches the ball, he's just going to shoot it. I haven't really seen much of a skill set outside of that. So if you take Jokic away, I wonder what kind of player he becomes or what he's forced to become.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I really don't think that the players Jokic is playing with are like that good. We've seen Aaron Gordon without Jokic. Aaron Gordon, he fits his role a lot better as the dunk guy, the oop guy, rather than the guy in the Magic. KCP we saw actually, the funny thing is that the Lakers were ready to let KCP go to the Nuggets and weren't even going to look back. But I think Jokic found a way to make KCP really like become that kind of run down the court, shoot a three, work on the offense, fast paced 3-point run and gun kind of guy, and also can bring in intensity. I think Jokic just makes a solid glue. I don't think the Nuggets even now. This is spicy, but I don't even think the Nuggets make the playoffs without Jokic. That's just from what I've seen. The rotations are way too small, and the rotations rely on Jokic way too much. Now with Shai. Now I can't say the same thing that if Shai doesn't exist, does this team still make the playoffs? Probably. But what I will say is that Shai is arguably the most efficient player in the league. He is very mature for what stage in his career he is, and he's able to lead a team to 1 seed. He's not really looking for his shot very often. Yeah, sure, he'll be the guy to take those shots, and he's real confident in it, but he is more of he is like Jokic a little bit, except you'd expect a guy of his age to really be looking for his stats, but that's just not it. And Shai has been healthy. It's just really close. I could hear an argument for Jokic, but I'm just gonna pick Shai because of the unexpected. We saw this from Jokic last year, Oscar Robertson numbers, but Shai is also doing pretty well too. I don't know.
All right, so I'm going to go someone different than you guys, and I'm actually going to go with who I think is going to win, and that's Luka Doncic. I reluctantly had to pick this because obviously the Clippers are playing them right now, and I'm a big Shea guy. I think that, he means a lot to his team. So does Jokic, but so does Doncic. I mean, the best player on any of these other teams, it's probably Kyrie, then Jamal, and then Chet or Jalen Williams in that order. So he obviously has the most help star-wise, but Derek Lively, he did okay for a rookie year. He's starting to kind of figure it out in the playoffs. Game 1, he didn't know what to do as soon as Gafford went down. They had the additions of Gafford and PJ Washington. But just like with all the additions that the Nuggets have that Peyton said earlier, I just don't think that, Jokic's stats compare as much to Luka and Shea. So I just want to get Jokic kind of out of the way, who's probably going to end up winning the whole thing, if we're being completely honest. But if I were to talk about Luka, he's the only one out of these 3 guys that is top 2 in points and assists. So he has to help everyone around him, including Kyrie, where Kyrie, he's normally a ball handler, right? He only averages 5.2 assists a game.
Kyrie can be whatever you want him to be. He can be a ball handler. He can be a shooting guard for you. He's proven that on many teams. I mean, LeBron, he played with LeBron. He played with KD. He played with James Harden. He played off ball for these guys. I mean, are you expecting LeBron to be playing off ball? Are you expecting James Harden and KD? KD maybe. I think Kyrie is a lot more help than what Shai has and what Jokic has. If you have Kyrie instead of Jamal Murray, that's barbecue chicken. Continue. I see the rest of the supporting cast. It goes downhill fast.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe PJ's that. Maybe PJ, but continue.
But then just looking at the shooting splits too, I mean, he only shoots 5% less, almost 5%, a little under, percent less from the field. And we like to think that Shea is one of the most efficient shooters in the league, which is true. But Luka's only 5% behind, which isn't all too far away. They get to the free throw line the same amount. We like to think that Luka is, going in and, trying to get as many fouls as possible, but Shea just gets them too. So that kind of rules that out. Shea doesn't shoot a lot of threes, and I'm not going to bash that because that doesn't really matter. But Luka shoots a lot of threes. The second most in the league behind Steph Curry, and only shoots 2.6% less than Curry. So he's shooting fairly efficient. He leads the league in points. He's second in assists. He has 9.2 rebounds. I just feel like that this is a year to give it to him. The only thing, and I do like to always bring this up when talking about MVP, is where did you finish in your conference?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the year where I think that I feel like the numbers just outweigh that just a little bit.
It's a Westbrook situation.
No.
Yeah,
No, that should have never happened.
That's exactly what you're
That should have never happened.
That's what that is.
No, don't get me heated right now.
Well, by definition, though, that's what you said. That's what that is.
Yeah, but they're a 5 seed. No one should ever win the MVP as a 6 seed. Ever.
I actually think Jokic should win the MVP now that I think about it. I like Shai, but I'm thinking about what Jokic has done, and I really don't think this Nuggets team is that good without him.
So how about this? Since you are saying that you really like SGA and Jokic, you have a debate why you don't think Luka should even be mentioned.
I don't think Luka should be mentioned. Let me think. Well, I feel like he has Kyrie. I feel like he lacks. Well, all these players. I feel like Jokic does lack on defense, but Luka's just that much worse at defense rating. I think Luka's one of the worst defensive rating. Jokic, he's not really known for his defense, but that doesn't mean he's completely like a liability. I feel like the Mavericks had to specifically get reinforcements for this man, Luka, which they did. But I mean, is that helping Luka's case? It makes his load a little easier. It's just do I have a really concise and clear point of why Luka doesn't belong in the conversation? He does belong in the conversation, but why is SGA and Jokic above him? Higher seeds, check.
Less star help, check.
Less star help, check.
Star help. The tapers off after that. probably more exponentially than the other two teams, and I think you guys would agree with that.
I feel like Jokic tapers Luka Doncic is like offensive stats while not just being terrible on defense.
I mean, he's not terrible on defense. If we're looking at their defensive ratings, Jokic was a 108, which the smaller the number, the better. Mm-hmm. Shea was a 1.909, so almost a whole 2 above that, and then Doncic is a 112.6, which isn't all too bad.
What are the highest in the NBA if you got them up?
The best.
The worst.
The worst? I don't see that.
I think he's probably among the worst, next to Trae Young or something.
No, he's not. He's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 25th.
25th?
Right behind Sabonis, right behind Franz Wagner, right behind Jaylen Brown, and right behind Derek White.
Okay.
So the fact saying that he's bad on defense or horrible on defense is a little bit of a reach. Now, if he was 100th, you have a good point. But he's only 25th. When the other one is 3 and 11th.
I kind of want to change my pick to Jokic too now that I think about it. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not going to, but here's the one thing about Jokic that I do think us, people that watch the NBA, and vote getters will say, is that SGA and Luka get so many foul calls that inflate their stats, And both those guys, don't get it twisted. They foul bait. They foul hunt. They get to the line, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's gonna inflate your stats. Whereas Jokic, like, he'll go in and he'll get smacked 1,000 times. He'll leave the game and he'll have huge scratches all over his arms. And it seems like he just doesn't have a very favorable whistle, unfortunately. Whereas the other guys like look to play a more passive way where they want to get to the line, where Jokic just kind of plays. And if he gets fouled, he gets fouled. And that means a lot to me.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to change that, you can. Gage, are you going to change?
Yeah, I'll change Jokic.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
change
changing
Jokic as well. That was
Yeah.
that kind of swayed it for me when I look at the free throws. And I'm sure Jokic shoots free throws too, but it's the way he plays that swings it for me.
All right. So then that wraps up our 2023 to 2024 NBA awards prediction / kind of review. Is there anything else you guys need to add?
Look at the international like presence here. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why the USA team is going to get beat in the All-Star game next year when it's USA versus World. Nah. We'll see.
Maybe, but I thought you were gonna say the Olympics. I'm like,
No,
they're too split up.
No, we're gonna win the Olympics, but we're gonna lose the All-Star game,
especially with Joel Embiid just switching sides like that.
Yeah,
kind of a snake. The France is like building a super team over there, but Jokic, I mean, Joel Embiid is kind of messing it up. But they could have had Rudy, Victor, and Joel. That paint is gone. That's it. Like, you're just gonna have to get shooters. If you can't shoot, you can't make the Olympics. Could you imagine trying to make a layup, Sam? I wouldn't, because I have to shoot over him. Not imagining Jason Tatum or something. You making a layup against those three guys.
But
it's insane.
Yeah, that French team would be insane. But we'll have to find out later this year once we get closer to the Olympics.
Yep.
But once again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Momentum MVP. Follow our Facebook page at MVP Momentum Podcast. And check us out on YouTube at MVP Momentum Podcast. I've been Sam Holcroft.
Gage Zollicoffer.
I've been Payne Thompson.
Thanks for listening.